Me, the Tank Index here, and today I will be doing my first video on a French tank. We are starting with World War I French tanks. Today this will be a video on the Schneider CA1 and the Saint Chammond. Many of you have probably never heard of the Schneider CA1, but if you played the popular video game and my favorite video game of all time, Battlefield 1, y'all probably know the Saint Chammond for the tank that goes in, caps a point, and camps there. So yeah, fun video. Let's just get started. So first of all, with the Schneider CA1, the design statistics first. It is armed with a 75mm blockhouse Schneider gun, which is I'd say it's slightly better than the 6-pounder CWT gun on the British tanks. And it also has two supporting Hotchkiss machine guns. The protruding frontal nose area that you could see was designed to break through barbed wire. However, it actually resulted in the tank getting stuck in craters and trenches, so it really wasn't that good. The interior was very cramped, and the poor visibility of the driver, along with the fact that the driver was also the commander, led to poor ergonomics and crew performance. Tank crews did not like this vehicle. It weighed about 14 tons, so it was a lot lighter than the British tanks. It had a crew of 6, a commander/driver, which is horrible to give both those a role, or the same role. A gunner, 2 machine gunners, a loader, and a mechanic. It had 11mm armor, and later it was given 5mm spaced armor, which was the first instance of spaced armor in the tank, which is pretty cool. And it had a 5 mph top speed. So only 400 were made, 2 of these being command tanks armed with radios instead of actual weapons. They basically kickstarted French tank design. You can kind of see they were definitely inspired by Little Willie. You could just see that from the design. And they not only kickstarted French tank design, they kickstarted tank tactics, and were also important in stopping the German spring offensives of 1918, I believe. When Schneider went on to start Italy's first tank design along with French FTs, though it was replaced a few weeks later with an Italy FT copy. But it was well liked enough for Italy to ask for 20 and then 1,500, but these were cancelled in favor for internally producing a more modern and cheap Fiat 3000, which was a Renault FT clone, which will be the next video, by the way. And 6 were also used by Spain during the Rif War in North Africa. So vehicles 210 onward was the first tank to implement spaced armor, which was used to combat K bullets, which could probably get an episode of their own. Fuel reservoirs were actually prone to exploding because they were in pretty close areas that if a bullet hit them, well, you're kind of dead. So they were changed to being fuel tanks in different locations. Later models included better ventilations to combat fumes, an actual exhaust pipe, God bless, a periscope pipe for better vision, and speaking tubes so you gotta actually hear each other over the engine roar. And after the war, CAs were turned into supply carriers and recovery vehicles, because, well, they weren't really needed anymore. And unlike the British, who kept their land ships, these were basically just transformed. The Schneider CA2 was a planned design, which had a turret with a 37mm gun, 1 to 2 frontal machine guns, a 4-man crew, and 6 mph top speeds. But it was passed over in favor of the FT-17, which was quickly becoming France's favorite tank. The Schneider CA3 and CA4 were planned designed ideas floated around with potential for a flamethrower in a rotating turret, or just a normal rotating turret with a gun, but they were also passed over in favor of the FT since the Schneider was just not exactly the best. The only surviving Schneider CA1 is actually still in working condition and is the oldest tank that is in working condition. I believe it was shown off in 2010 running, so that's pretty cool. Now onto the Saint Chammond. It weighed 23 tons and had 4 Hotchkiss machine guns and a 75mm blockhouse Schneider gun. Not only that, despite its weight, it had a higher speed than the Saint Chammond with a 7.5 mph top speed. The 8-man crew of a commander/driver, a gunner/loader, an assistant gunner, a mechanic, and 4 machine gunners. However, the Caterpillar tracks were just too short for the vehicle and the vehicle's weight, so it kind of gave it poor turning and mobility in general. However, later models were given better tracks, while I had a stroke rating that. thicker frontal armor, and an improved 75mm model 1897 gun. It was the first assault gun in history, based off, depending on your definition, and it served as a direct commercial competitor to the Schneider CA1. These two were basically the first tanks to actually compete each other on the market. They were used until late 1918, where they were replaced by the superior British heavy land ships. But actually, by that time, they were actually the most effective due to the war moving on to more of random flat fields instead of trenches, which actually gave them better mobility, and that was probably when they were best. After the war, many were converted to ammunition carriers, and some sketchy reports say that the Polish used it against the Soviets in the 1920 war, and there's a single surviving model. So, final assessments of these tanks: the Schneider CA1 was the first French tank designed and built. It basically kickstarted French design and influenced French tank tactics, and then it competed commercially with the Saint Chammond, the first assault gun in history. Despite being pretty poor tank designs, they did both give the French military and tank designers experience in the relatively new technology, because they kind of needed tanks to just kickstart it. They did give good feedback and information, which was later used to design and mass produce the Renault FT. And in general, they were very influential vehicles for the French, and it helped pave the road to the FT, which was probably the most influential World War I vehicle. Hope you enjoyed the video. Next time we'll talk about the Char 2C, so see you then.